5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And it's live.
This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome along. It's the second show this evening. Who's at the wheel? That's what this guy was asking me earlier. I tell you what, though, whatever we say, he's got what it takes. Hey, first of many.
Those old chestnuts are still working, Chris.
They are, and I'm an old chestnut myself, so I often wonder why I'm doing this. Let's move on, shall we? Sooner the better. I mean, look, you'll remember, a lot of you will remember Dave, Showaddywaddy, certainly of a certain age, me growing up remembering Showaddywaddy. And the idea there is that he was a little bit angry the other day, weren't you, Dave? And welcome along, everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I've been getting, I don't know whether it's my age, but perhaps, it's not curmudgeonly anger. It's, I think, the direction the club's been going in the past sort of 3, 4, maybe even 5 years, is well, we've been going backwards. Let's be blunt about it. We have been going backwards, and it kind of it really, really got my goat last week when Susan Whelan was shown the door, and basically, I do know a lot of what goes on in the back rooms, in the corridors of power, and I just felt Susan was made a scapegoat. She's not really done anything wrong, and those culpable for the state of the club and the direction we're going in. Forget Saturday's result. It's always lovely to win games, and we're all very, very passionate about our club, and we want to win games. But ultimately, we really have been misled. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. It is, I think the only word I can use, it's a big word, Chris, is Machiavellian, what's been going on for the past couple of seasons. And we've reached a point now where the club is basically being run by 2 people. And one of them is, I sad to say, is slightly misinformed, and it's a mess, and there needs to be some truth. And I think Top needs to meet with the fans and address the actual fans' moans and groans, and there's. We want truth. We want people to be upfront. We're very proud to be Leicester City fans. And, 10 years ago, overseen by Susan Whelan as the CEO, what were we doing? We were defying the odds, and halfway through the most amazing season in the club's history. And why have the wheels come off? The wheels have come off because people are not doing their jobs, and people are not very good at their jobs. And we have a chairman who is a little bit, I'm not being rude, but he's naive. He doesn't really He hasn't got the know-how that his father had. I'm not saying he's not a decent human being or anything like that, but he's being misled, and the club is consequently, as I said, going backwards and suffering. And there needs to be the togetherness that there was 10 years ago. We had a fantastic director of football in Steve Walsh, and the club, we were buying fantastic players without paying inflated salaries. But over the past few years, it's gone the opposite way. We got in an elite manager in Brendan Rodgers, and it was a great appointment. I was actually sorry to see him go. And again, I think he was probably made a scapegoat. At that time, we were not expected to go down that season with the strength of the squad we had in place, and all this sort of smoke and mirrors stuff. It's got to come to an end. Something has got to be done. The fans no longer want to be ignored. The fans want to know what is going on, and the fans want to know why certain people are in powerful positions when they don't have the ability to be in that kind of a position.
I know exactly what you're coming to. I mean, that was a lot to take in, and you're obviously very, very passionate. I think, you go up the ladder, you're going to come down the ladder at some point. And I think that Susan Whelan going on, I think when everybody has a go when the club's not doing well and having a go at the board, it's anybody. And I think the problem is, certainly for me as a fan, and you've got people agreeing with you totally there in the chat. For me as a fan, they are too secretive. We don't know. We know that John Rudkin's called director of football. We knew that Susan Whelan was the CEO. There's so many rumours going around. We don't know what the job roles are. We know what a director of football should be. We don't know if that's what John Rudkin does. There's been mistakes made. There's rumours that, or accounts, apparently Susan Whelan didn't send off the accounts on time, although they were sat on a desk. How true that is, like I say, you hear these things, don't you? And these things are reported. You don't know how true they are. But she also, she oversaw a fantastic, time for the club. For me, it probably goes back, unfortunately, to Vichai, rest in peace, when he passed away.
Yes.
And Top had well, not just that, but I think that and COVID coming on at the same time, it's like, it's like the price of oil going down. Suddenly you'd see Newcastle and all those clubs struggling. And I think the COVID and Vichai passing at the same time, I think it put a hell of a lot of pressure on Top.
I think it put a lot of pressure on Susan Whelan as well.
Yes, it could, yeah.
But what I'm saying is, it's the smoke and mirrors stuff. People are getting away with murder almost behind the scenes.
Is that because we're so secretive?
We've had players that have not really wanted to play because of the ridiculous wages they've been on. We had Danny Ward, who barely played a game in about 2.5 years. Yes. Reportedly, he was on about 50,000 a week. Now, obviously, someone wasn't motivating him. He should never have been on a deal like that in the first place. If you're not playing, you don't get the same pay. That's the way it's always worked in my industry. No play, no pay. But I think the whole thing, it's the lack of honesty and integrity that is really winding me up. There's some good people at that club. And Susan was certainly one. She was the human face of the King Power Stadium of Leicester City Football Club. She was the human face. She's a very good woman, and she was very, very good at her job. And I feel that she's been made a scapegoat for the failings of others.
All right, let me come straight to it then and avoid sort of, beating around the bush, and it's the elephant in the room. Is John Rudkin the man that is causing all the trouble?
It's difficult for me to say. I'd see John regularly at games and chat to him, and I've always got on very, very well with him. But at the same time, I have to be brutally honest. And yeah, I mean, he's the man that should be taking the rap for all matters football. He's the director of football.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like it's John that is taking the rap. And why not? Why you got to stand up and be counted? I mean, for most of last season, the second half of last season, at every home game, even the away fans, every game, there was, we weren't looking out. There was, but it was never addressed by the club. It was never addressed. It was ignored. Now it seems that even the fans have got fed up with it because they've stopped doing it. They obviously think they're flogging a dead horse. But somebody, if you're the director of football, then you have to be culpable when things go wrong on the pitch and off the pitch when it's football related.
Do you think there was a power struggle between the two? Because what I'd heard was that they just weren't talking. Susan Whelan was looking after after Vichai passed, Susan Whelan was looking after the financial side, which obviously we'll come to later, but that's in a bit of a mess. I know not necessarily all her own fault, but with the PSR. And John Rudkin was looking after the football, and apparently they hadn't spoken for years. Again, how true that is, and if they saw each other walking, towards each other in the corridor, one of them would turn around and walk the other way.
I think there's an element of truth in that, but also I think that was largely because Susan and Top weren't speaking and hadn't spoken really for the best part of 2 years.
Wow!
And I think that John Rudkin maybe just climbed on the bandwagon and threw his support behind Top like he always does. But Susan was kind of battling. She was fighting a losing battle on her own, basically.
What had, I didn't realise that. What had happened then between Susan and Top? Was there a falling out? Was there a disagreement?
It's very, very difficult to say. I actually.
I don't expect you to say anything that would get you into trouble. Obviously,
No, but we've come this far now, and people are being made scapegoats. And sometimes, like I say, people need to speak the truth. And we want answers now. We want to know why our club's in the mess it is. I mean, we know that a lot of players and the way that the contracts were structured now, whose job is that to structure the contracts? And the money that these guys were on in the Premier League, we've had painfully average players on crazy salaries. And it's very, I don't want to say anything out of order, but I've probably said too much already, but to be honest, but at the same time, I am, passionate. I've been passionate since the age of 9 about Leicester City, and I want to see the club going in the right direction. I think the new manager, Cifuentes, I think he's got the players on side. Yeah, I think considering that he was kind of it was a rushed appointment, really, in his case. But I think he's come in and he's shown that he's got a personality, and he's got a way he wants to play, and I think the majority of the players are responding to it. And we've got some very, very good players. We've still got some great players in our squad. But we've got a few others that have been, shall we say, swinging the lead for a while.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've just done a show now, the earlier one at 7, which was how each championship team have started. Better than expected, the same, worse. And for Leicester, I think if at the end of last season, if you told me we're going to be sat in third after 9 games, 2 points off the lead, I mean, I think he's done a very, very good job. Do you
It's
think?
not that good a league though this year, is it?
No. I mean, look, we've got a points deduction coming along, and the way I look at it is, I'm trying to forget last season. And in fairness, a lot of people turn around and say, "Well, last season, we were in the Premier League. We're not now. But last season, we were a Premier League team. Obviously, we're not now. So, but the performances just weren't. It wasn't the fact that we were losing to Liverpool, Man City. We were losing to everybody. Let's be honest with you.
Apart from Spurs, yeah.
Well, apart from Spurs, exactly, and the two relegated teams. But you look at people were moaning that we'd oh God, it was another draw. Yes, we should have beaten Wrexham, but we didn't. And they said, yeah, but we've had four draws in a row. And I'm going, yeah, but last season we had 17 losses in a row. Surely that's an improvement with the same players that we had virtually last year. Less,
it is a different level. Well, I don't know whether the players are the same, are they? I liked Bilal. I thought he was a class act on his day. I just thought the organisation. I don't think we had the right manager in place for the majority of last season. So I think that's why the wheels came off. I thought Cooper was doing okay with what he had, but again, I think perhaps he was made a scapegoat as well, a little too soon.
I mean, this is it with Top, and look, let me just say this now: love Top, love what him and his family have done for the club. I don't particularly. I think he has to take part of the blame as the owner for what's gone on, but a lot of people last season were wanting him to sell the club. I wouldn't go that far, but I think he does have to shoulder some of the responsibility. And I'm just wondering whether, like I said earlier, whether it was too much too soon for him to take all on. After his father.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't disagree with that.
No, I think it was, as I with COVID as well. But I think after his father passed, I don't think many of us would have been surprised if he'd said, I can't do this anymore.
He loves the club.
Mm.
He loves the club, but I can't help thinking at times that it's still like a plaything.
Nah. Do you think being, I mean, after his father passed, John Rudkin was there for him. And John Rudkin sort of been there.
So was Susan Whelan.
Oh yeah. I'm not saying she wasn't, but with John, I mean, and I know a lot of people want him out, and we know that he does some things good. He won the Champions League when he was there. Champions League, that was wishful thinking. Premier League, but just Top rely on him too much,
without a doubt. Without any question. It's kind of a two-pronged attack, if you like. There are only two people that really talk about the club, and everyone else is largely ignored. Everyone else behind the scenes. It's the whole thing. I occasionally go into the boardroom, and Susan invited us for lunch on regular occasions, and they're generally good people. But over the last 18 months or so, the atmosphere in there has been bordering on toxic, because people not talking to one another and so on and so forth. It's there's no togetherness, and we won the league, the Premier League, and we won the FA Cup because of the togetherness on the field of play and largely off the field of play behind the scenes. But that's gone. That has gone. The atmosphere behind the scenes is not one of a successful club.
I mean, would you say we're back to where we were before King Power took over? Because we were badly run. I mean, all right, Milan came in, and again, rest in peace, Milan. He's obviously just passed this weekend, and we thank Milan a lot, because without him, we'd have probably not had a club. We'd have gone out of business again. But prior to that, we were run pretty awful, weren't we? We were bobbling around the bottom of the second tier. It was only a time, I think, before we went down. Turned it all round. Nigel Pearson came in, and the rest, as they say. Have we kind of gone back to that, do you think? Have we found our natural?
I think to a degree we have, but as I say, behind the scenes, it doesn't feel settled. There's no harmony.
Yeah,
and you need that. I remember talking to Wes Morgan towards the end of last season when he came to one of the games, and he was saying that the atmosphere at Forest compared to Leicester was just quite unbelievable, unimaginable. That everyone was buzzing around the place, just like we were 10 years ago. And it continued, Sorry?
Winning helps that, and Forest last season were winning,
Winning does, but when you've got a great team, and I say team, I don't just mean on the field of play, you've got a great team throughout the whole club. That makes a massive difference, and the players feel that as well. But I'll go back to what I was saying about certain players sort of strolling around the pitch like it really doesn't seem that important, and that's still happening occasionally this season. It shouldn't be.
No. I think Marty's making an improvement, though.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. We were up at the training ground a couple of weeks ago for Birchie's 80th, actually, and they gave him a nice presentation, and we were rubbing shoulders with a few of the lads and the new manager, and it seemed to be a pretty good vibe amongst them all. And I think he's brought a bit of togetherness back, certainly within the squad. And he's not had the easiest of jobs, because we've had to, get rid of quite a few players to try and balance the books before the dreaded sort of points deduction comes along. And it's just like we're up against it all the time. And I think we're up against it all the time because of that lack of harmony, that lack of togetherness that just isn't there anymore.
I've always said any business, and football clubs are businesses these days, it's like a human body. If you wake up in the morning, at the moment, for example, I've got it coming out of both ends. I've got this bubble that's going round. Too much information, I know. But because I don't feel so well in myself, I can't really go out and do what I want to do. And I think it's the same with any business. If it's not right internally, it's not going to be right externally, and you've got to get internally sorted first.
Absolutely. 100%. That's exactly how business works. And a football club, is business. It's a big business.
Yeah.
But it needs leaders. It needs people that know what they're doing. We need more people on the football side, giving valuable advice to those that maybe don't quite get it right all the time. It needs teamwork behind the scenes as well as on the field of play.
I know you're going to be careful with what you say, but like I say, you're there. You see behind the scenes, and I do think that the relationship between, and I can say it, I guess, but the relationship between Top and John is too cosy. I mean, the fact that John could do anything and he will not be sacked, and that seems to what the fans outside the club certainly the ones I speak to look at and think that's the problem. Whatever happened, Top's been there, and I know you said Susan was, but she was shunted aside to the finance side, and that was a strength. Let's be honest. But if John sort of murdered somebody, then tomorrow Top would, not sack him. I know that's extreme, but and I think that's what gets everybody, because we blame Top. If the toilet's blocked in the away end in the ladies, it would be John Rudkin's fault.
I don't think it's quite all that bad. I don't think.
Everything, we lost the game last season. It was because John Rudkin didn't sign this player. But we don't know what they do. They're so secretive, the ties.
There is an anomaly there, though. Of course, the club might be going down the toilet.
Well, there is that. There is that. But you know what I'm saying? We don't know what he does, so it's easy to blame him. And when we look at it and go, look, like I say, Susan Whelan's got things wrong, but she also got a lot right. And in fairness to John Rudkin, he got things right as well as getting things wrong. But obviously we see the most recent, and that's in our memories. But if the club, if you could say to people, right, one of them's got to go, you'd have, 99% of fans would say John Rudkin.
I think 100% might.
I'm being kind. Well, what's the advert say? In an opinion where people express the preference. 99%.
You mentioned about the relationship being too cosy. Well, I think that's putting it mildly. To be honest, in fact, Gary Lineker was on a podcast, I think, a couple of nights ago, and he mentioned, this is for the elder fans, that John Rudkin was the best man marker since Alan Woolley.
Oh my God! Interesting though. Again, when Vardy left, his last game last season, John Rudkin nowhere to be seen.
No, they wouldn't be.
Those two were toxic as well. And if he's
there was no love lost there. No. At all.
But if you're a director of football, surely you've got to get on with the players. That's your remit, isn't it?
It certainly should be. It is part of the job for sure, but it's not happening. It isn't happening. John is not really involved with the first team squad in that a lot of the players they don't understand what John's role actually is. He's by name the director of football, but he's not really involved in footballing matters.
Is he not?
Not to the degree that he should be, certainly.
Right. We would probably say he's too involved, and he shouldn't have the responsibilities that he's got.
I think the problem is, as I say, I'm not just blaming John Rudkin, and I'm not just blaming Top, but the two of them are basically calling the tune now at the club. And nobody else can get a word in any longer. They're shot down, and you can't run a club by not talking to your chief executive officer for 2 years.
Yeah,
that's just not a way to run a business or any enterprise. The whole thing, like I say, has been going backwards for quite some time, and I just felt compelled to say something based on what I've seen and what I feel, because I don't want my club to become a laughingstock.
Which last season we were. With the way
awful. It was the most dismal season. I've been going to see Leicester City for 60 years. And honestly, I know we've had some bad seasons. We got relegated to League One, but I didn't feel almost as suicidal as I did last year. Halfway through the season, we knew we were going down.
But I can remember the Frank McClintock season, and that was pretty
bad. That was pretty bad.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
It was a very, very bad appointment. Frank was a smashing guy, a great footballer, but far too nice to be a manager.
And a very big job to take over from Jimmy Bloomfield.
Absolutely.
In the top division.
Bloomers was an amazing manager.
But you've got two people now supposedly running the club. I'm sure Top. I'm not sure about Top being chief executive, because is he moving over to the country? Is he going to be here and while he's doing the job, is he going to be based in this country? Because your chief executive officer has got to be there to respond to things as they happen, as Susan was. And yet, Top's, if he's flying between countries and over in Thailand half the time, how's he going to do the job?
You've just said it, Chris. You just said it. And also, I know that King Power has gone bust in Thailand. So now we have a situation where the only asset that King Power have is Leicester City Football Club.
So King Power as a company,
certainly don't want the rock to set in. Sorry.
I know they're in trouble. Have they actually gone bust then?
Apparently so.
Wow. I didn't know. But King Power don't own Leicester, do they? Because Top's family, I believe, own all the shares.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Who were King Power?
Working King Power. I know they've had financial troubles, King Power. I mean, you've got two people, like I say, you've got Top, love him to bits, he loves the club, and what he's done in this, for Leicestershire and the hospitals and all that sort of thing. Look, so much more than a lot of owners. Then you've got John Rudkin, supposedly as his number 2, director of football, which is his title, who came up and he had nothing to do with football, really. He didn't.
The youth team coach.
Sorry?
The youth team coach, wasn't he?
He was, but did he just go along and turn up and he kind of fell into the job? He didn't have any experience, did he?
I don't know the ins and outs of how he actually became director of football, but it was a meteoric rise from where he'd been previously. Exactly.
And you've got two people there that, no disrespect to them, aren't football minded. Top is a businessman. You could argue whether he's good or bad, but they'd never run a football club before they took over from Milan. It feels like you need somebody to come in that knows the football club. A lot of people are saying we need a director of football other than John Rudkin. And
couldn't agree more.
Sorry?
Couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Like I said, we need people that are respected in football. And we haven't got anybody anymore.
I mean, Michael's just said there he was academy director. Thank you, Michael. Yes, he was. But being running an academy is different to running a football club as a whole.
It's a lot different to running a Premier League football club, that's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are saying Nigel Pearson should come back as director of football.
So once again, I don't think there's much love between Nigel and John Rudkin.
No, that is a big problem. Yes, but every time we say this, the one problem that sort of always comes up is John Rudkin. And you're thinking like, well, if everybody doesn't get on with John Rudkin, then obviously the main problem is John Rudkin.
That's certainly how the fans feel, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Do you think? And this was my thought, and I'll come to your question in a second, Michael. Does John Rudkin want to be chief executive in place of Susan Whelan? And in fairness, that would obviously then mean that we could get somebody else in as director of football. And wouldn't he be better at that, maybe, than the football side?
I heard a rumbling coming out of the club a couple of days ago that John is actually going to be promoted to some new role,
wow.
which, from what I gather, will incorporate being director of football along with some other duties. But I stand corrected on that. That was just from someone I know who's quite close to the club.
Right. I don't think this situation would have happened if the Chai had still been around.
Mm-hmm. Neither do I.
I don't want to blame, Top, because, it all came sooner than it planned. Like I say, and COVID didn't help as well. But he just hasn't got the life experience, of looking at somebody and going, he's not doing a good job. Yes, he's my best friend. I don't want to upset him. But like you say, give him a promotion or a new title, but then get somebody else in to do what John's been bad at. And we got things right in the past. We had things where we were buying the right players. But everybody's going. The other complaint about John Rudkin, well, why is he giving these big wages to players? And I don't know whether he has the final say on wages or whether he's got a budget to work to from top. But, as fans, having won the Premier League, we wanted the best players. Now, we're still Leicester. If somebody Man United had finished, say, 7th, we're after a player, that player is probably going to choose United over Leicester. So we have to go that little bit more with money. And we sailed close to the sun, and I think we got burnt.
Possibly so. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we were necessarily punching above our weight. I mean, we had an elite manager in Brendan Rodgers, and after Vishai passed, and Top was very, very enthusiastic about the club. That certainly there was no sign of the wheels coming off then, but I think everything appeared to get a bit too complacent. And as you said, we needed to bring someone in to take hold of football matters. Now, another role could have been found for John Rudkin, of course. But I don't think John was ever the front man when it came to being an actual director of football. And from what I gather, he never really had the respect of the players that he should have had.
Not in that position, no. And you do need somebody. That is why, you when you're bringing these people in, like you say, it's the same with the manager as well. Did Cooper have the respect of the players? Brendan probably did. And this is an interesting point that Richard says, with a bit of flowery language. Rodgers messed himself over by the way he went about trying to run the club. Did he do that because he felt it wasn't being run properly, do you think?
I'm not sure that Brendan Rodgers tried to run the club. Everything was still in place. He had some very successful seasons. I mean, we were in Europe, three seasons on the trot, got to the semi-final of a European competition. And everything in the garden looked pretty rosy. And we went into another season expecting to finish in Europe again, and somehow got relegated.
But again,
and that should have been arrested, way before we got into real difficulties.
That summer, Brendan Rodgers had come out and said, and the way that he maybe, he did have a habit of throwing players under the bus, but he came out and said, I need a rebuild. Every manager, if they're there a while, I mean, how many rebuilds did Alex Ferguson had more rebuilds than Wimpy. You know what I mean?
Well, they're still rebuilding Man United now.
Well, they are, yeah. I mean, the foundations have crumbled there, haven't they? But you know what I mean? But he had no problem in kicking out the players and saying, right, you're old, I'll get rid of you, I'm going to get some new players in, etc. And, he went around, and again, I know this is only, what I've heard, but he would have approached players and said, right, do you want to come? And they're saying, yes, I'll come, and blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly Top says, we can't afford anybody, because UEFA had come along to him and said, look, if you get qualified for Europe again, which we had, like you say, we had done for 3 seasons, if you qualify for Europe again, you're going to get done under PSR. Nothing was said. Brendan obviously didn't know, and nothing was said to the fans until I think we played Manchester United, and it was on deadline day, and we were playing Manchester United, and he put in his notes in the programme about it. Now, by that time, we were, say, a month and a half into the season. There's a lot of rumblings. Players going, well, why have we bought any players? The manager wanted a rebuild, and why isn't that happening? Well, if Top had come out at the start of the season, or John somebody had come out and said, guys, we do need a rebuild. We're going to have to hold fire because if we spend too much money and qualify for Europe again, which they thought they would do, having been there 3 seasons, we're going to get done, with fines and what have you. Everybody would have gone, okay, we understand, Yep. But they didn't until it was too late, by which time fans are sat there getting pissed off because they don't know why are we buying these players? All they had to do was come out and make a statement.
Which they never do.
Mm.
And there hasn't been a statement made over the chants from the stands about John. There hasn't been. There's been no contact at all from either Top or John Rudkin. The club have barely said a thing. It's almost like they're just hoping it will all go away. And to a degree, it has done this season.
Yes.
Until now, where a lot of people that I've been talking to in the last week do feel like Susan has been made a scapegoat and the wrong person has been relieved of their duties.
She goes back a long way with Vichai, obviously, because she worked for King Power before she came in.
25 years for King Power, yeah.
Again, because I don't know what her particular role was, I can't say, how good or bad she was at it. But somebody said here, do you think her being let go was anything to do with the sort of fact that we've not got a shirt sponsor this season and we're losing a lot of money for that?
Not necessarily her role.
Right, okay. Or don't tell me that's John's role.
maybe to do the numbers. No, there are other directors at the club, at the football club as well. So, not necessarily. Susan was behind the Garden of Remembrance, so various other things. She's, like I say, she's always been the human face of Leicester City, certainly for the last 15 years. And she's a very intelligent lady, and I just feel saddened that we've lost a quality CEO, and it's not going to improve matters. If Top is going to take on the duties as CEO, as you said, what on earth is going to happen? And we've got the potential points deduction on its way. Now, who's going to negotiate to try and, we had the lawyers that saved our skin last time around, but it ain't going to wash this time. And who's going to fight that battle?
Exactly. I mean, they make sure we're not going to get away with anything this time, aren't they?
I think, to be honest, I think they've wanted to get us ever since we won the Premier League.
Well, there was a famous newspaper article where I think it was a Manchester City, one of their directors at a meeting had said, we can't let that happen again.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we're going to get, I believe we're going to get the points deduction. How much that will be, I don't know. I mean, we've been very good this summer. We were selling players. We haven't paid for anybody to come in yet. They're all loans and what have you. So they can see we're trying to get a house in order, but obviously that doesn't fall into the period that we're being done for.
But no, for last year. No.
Yeah. So I hope we take it on the chin and just move on, because I'm fed up with it every season, But the way I look at it, having spoken to you tonight, it's almost like, hang on, guys, we started off well. If Marty gets us back to the Premier League, they'll forget about it and they'll be behind us and they'll all be happy again.
Yeah, well, there's always that. But that said, Maresca got us back to the Premier League, and a lot of the people that I know that support the club, I don't think we would have been ecstatic if we'd finished fourth from bottom. That was the target.
Yeah.
And it's not really that ambitious, is it? And with the group of players that we had, there was never going to be another Great Escape. It just wasn't there. Like I say, the camaraderie or the togetherness within the club just wasn't there. and last year was an utterly dismal season.
Oh, totally. I mean, I was one of those, and this is why I'm not a football manager owner, because I wanted both Steve Cooper and Ruud van Nistelrooy, and they were both awful. But the thing with Steve Cooper was, I honestly think that he may have kept us fourth from bottom. That was the target.
Possibility.
We thought we were going to get a points deduction, and I thought he'd done it with Forest. He may just be able to keep us right. Then Ruud van Nistelrooy came in, obviously had the best job interview ever, beating us twice as interim Man United. He wanted the Man United job. He only came to Leicester, to spite Man United. And I think Ruud sort of paid the money to get Ruud. Sorry, Top paid the money to get him. And I just look at Top sometimes and thinking because I mean that decision when he sacked Cooper so early reminded me very much of when he hung on to Brendan too long.
From what I understand, he wasn't very keen on Cooper in the first place. From what I understand,
exactly, it was all John Rudkin.
Yeah.
Now, if your owner and your director of football can't agree,
well,
say to him.
Like I say, the club is in a sorry state at the moment. I think on the field of play, I think the guys will get some decent results, just like they did on Saturday. In a way, I think if we did get promotion somehow, I can't see us finishing in the first two. I really can't. But if we were to get promotion, it'd just be the same old story. We'd be scratching around to try and stay in the Premier League. And I just think we need to solidify everything that is there. And we need to get together a team of people that can take the club forward. Then it will start happening on the field of play. And then, if the finances, which, obviously has been a lot of issues with the finances, but I think a lot of that comes down to players' salaries and a lot of wasted money on other things. But we've simply got, like we said earlier, it needs to be run like a business from top to bottom. That's not a pun, by the way, but it does. It needs a plan. It needs a business ethic to take things forward and make us strong behind the scenes. And and Marty and the guys, they'll perform on the field of play, and I think we'll finish. I don't know. We'll probably finish in a playoff spot, but
hopefully so.
It's not what we would have aspired to 5 years ago.
No, I mean that's the thing. It has been quite a dramatic drop, hasn't it? And
very much so.
I don't think we'll go up this season, and I don't think it will be the end of the world if we don't. I think another season down there might do us good. I mean, like you say, we need somebody in a position of power that can run the business. Problem is, I think we've just got rid of that person.
Well, there is that. I can't. It looks like I'm taking sides, but I agree wholeheartedly.
I mean, look, when Top and his dad took over, they asked Milan to stay 6 months and so they could learn the ropes and what have you, and he very quickly did. But
that's good business.
That is excellent business. And like I say, I don't want to keep blaming everything on COVID, but we did get hit more than a lot of owners did. And I've put John Rudkin at the wheel, and I put at the bottom who's at the wheel. I mean, we always the big joke a few seasons ago was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Man United when Ria said, "Oh, Ole's at the wheel, everything's fine," And I just wonder if we're being driven off the edge of the cliff. And is this Top maybe getting ready to sell the club?
That's always a possibility. There are rumours that his mother is quite keen to do that. But again, I can't be.
No.
I'm not
This is the
certain
thing,
of that.
though. There's a lot of rumours. For God's sake, somebody at the club, and this may have been Susan if she'd been speaking to Tot, needs to say, go and to speak. I mean,
You're saying what we've both been coming to. Talk to us. Talk
Yes.
to the fans. Give us some answers. It's not happening.
We are making up our own stories here.
We are. The lack of communication is pathetic. It really is.
I'm not saying that any other club is different, but I don't give a shit about any other club, to be honest with you. And Vichai was always a very private person, but it was always Top that did the interviews.
Yeah,
so, it's we did
exuberance.
Yeah. Somebody asked earlier, and I wonder what, and I meant to ask this earlier. What does Andrew Neville? Do you know what his responsibilities are?
Yeah, I mean, he's basically like the club secretary. Clubs have always had a secretary. Andrew's very good at his job, and I know a lot of clubs have tried to poach him. So he must be doing something right.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes down, we used to have a guy called Simon Capper who was in control of the finances, and he was offered a job at Newcastle United. So I think when things were beginning to slip as well, so he jumped ship. But it's like I say, it's this two-pronged thing. It's Top and John Rudkin. Now the club, that's not. Like I said, they don't communicate with the fans. Neither of them communicate with the fans any longer. When we're asking for answers, we never get them.
No. I mean, do you remember? You obviously do remember Martin O'Neill. And when
Martin was a fantastic guy.
Oh yes, he was. We love him.
His exuberance and passion. I mean, that found itself on the field of play for 90 minutes every week.
Totally, 100% indeed. But when he first started, and he didn't get off to the best of starts.
Neither did Alex Ferguson.
No, quite right as well. But I don't know about Alex, but Martin came out and spoke to the fans.
Yes.
He came out and said, give me time, and I know I'm blah, blah, blah. And I remember Kevin Keegan doing that. When Newcastle sold Andy Cole to Manchester United, the Newcastle fans were going mad because he was the top scorer. And he came out and spoke to the fans on the club steps and was saying, trust me, I know what I'm doing. Now, whether he did or not is another story. But it's like nobody at the club's got the balls to come out and face the fans.
It's true. It's true, and we're going nowhere. With that, if that continues, we're going nowhere. We want some answers. We want to know what the future of our club holds. That's all we want to know. We just let us know what the hell is going on. If John Rudkin is to be given a new role with additional responsibilities, then tell us what this role is. Tell us what's going on. Tell us who's doing what. Tell us who's going to be doing the CEO's duties. Because I don't think Top is going to have time to really make a good job of that.
Well, no. Although he hasn't got his job at King Power anymore, has he? So
no. Well, there is that, but and he still spends quite a lot of time in Thailand, doesn't he? So, and the whole thing is just a mess. And the sadness is that we're all, you said it yourself. We're all really pissed off with what's happened to our club.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's why we're on here chatting.
Yes, no, totally. And we got to a position where, and even under Martin O'Neill, every time the Premier League kicked off, I'm thinking, just one above the relegation zone will be happy. Just keep us up. Yeah. And of course, we did a lot better than that. But we were in a position under Brendan where we're never scared. I mean, I was more worried about getting relegated under Claudio Ranieri. That season we won it.
Well, I think that was because of the season before, wasn't it? Where we, the miraculous escape. But at the same time, the spirit in the club and football matters. We had Steve Walsh, and we had Craig Shakespeare, and these guys. They lived and breathed football.
Yes. You look at that Nigel Pearson side, and I had a season ticket. I live down now on the south coast. I don't have a car, so I can't get to the matches to watch them. But at that time, me and my son, just before he was going to university, 7.5 hour return journey to watch us lose every week in that Great Escape season. And I tell you what, we never ever drove, because we had a 3.5 hour drive back home afterwards. We never ever came away thinking, well, that team was shit.
No,
because they were fighting.
There were a lot of 1-0s and the odd goal defeat. And we were in the game for 90 minutes fighting. It's a far cry now,
Identity as well. Marty might, in fairness, be trying to get that back.
Well, I hope so. Bringing in players like Jordan James. He's brought energy. In just 2 or 3 games, he's brought energy. The other lad has got to be a bit more careful, hasn't he, Ramsey? But I'd love to see the Argentine striker start. Just get a couple of lucky goals and go on a run of scoring. It would be great, but at the same time, it will still ultimately bring us back to what we're talking about right now. It will bring us back down to earth with a bump, because there'll be something that we won't be happy with the way the club is run. We'll have the points deduction, and everybody will get pissed off again with because of that. Because they're saying it could be 8 or 10 points. Yeah, and that would be catastrophic.
I always find with the points deduction, just to side it a little bit, is you get 8 points deducted if you go out of business.
Yes.
Yeah, you can get 9 points deducted for yourself. But look, it is what it is. It's there. We knew the rules.
Well, mercifully, they're changing it, aren't they? They're talking about changing it, so mercifully.
As Armchair said there, JJ has brought belief back to the fans. They say never fall in love with a loney, but I think we all are doing. But do you remember Leeds under David O'Leary? They went for it. The guy who's now actually at Preston was the Leeds chairman, and they got into the semi-finals of the Champions League, didn't they? And
indeed.
They were spending money like ever, and they went completely the other way. Not say the same way, but worse than us, because they went virtually out of business and had to be sold and what have you. Now, we haven't been that bad, but I think a little bit of it goes back to, this is going to sound awful, but in some ways, winning the Premier League isn't the best thing that's happened to us. Certainly on the financial side, because we won it, and we then said, right, we wouldn't have been happy if we'd won the Premier League and then gone and bought Jamie Vardy for £1 million. Everybody would have been up in arms, So we went and bought Showaddywaddy for 30 million. We're champions now. These are the money we should be spending.
And Ahmed Musa.
I liked Musa. No, I have to say, I don't think he was given and same with a lot of Leicester players, I don't think he was given a good shout, to be honest.
Possibly not. He just looked at, I don't know, a bit like he was another Daka for me.
Yes. No, Michael said here, now I've heard everything. I'm talking about financially, because as they win in the Premier League, no fan would have been then happy if we'd gone out and was buying £1 million players. They wanted us to buy the big names, and we needed to buy the big names because we wanted to dine at the top table.
Mm-hmm. We did.
And that's where I think it started to go wrong, because how many of those players that we bought at that point actually stayed around very long?
Well, a lot of, 2 or 3 of them were getting on a bit.
Yeah.
And the season where we we're in the Champions League. I don't know how we got to the quarterfinals. I mean, we may even have got to the semis. A dodgy penalty in Madrid, but
always a dodgy penalty with Leicester, isn't it?
well, yeah, that one was outside the box, wasn't it? There was no VAR at that time.
No, and a dodgy referee as well.
Well, yeah, there's plenty of those around. Even with VAR, there's still dodgy referees.
Oh God, yes. So that's what I was meaning, Michael. It on that side, it was. I mean,
Michael.
God, don't get me wrong. No, sorry, talking about Michael in the chat. Sorry, going back to his. Now I've heard everything. Yes, it is, and I'm not saying. He said there, winning the Premier League is surely the richest prize in sport. Look, I've got. You can't really see it there, but I've got the Premier League trophy. You can't really see it, but I've got the Premier League trophy there. I am as proud as anything that we won that, but
so am I.
We couldn't carry on that dream.
No. I know what you're saying, but at the same time, we came back, after they brought Puel in and brought Brendan in, and we're back in Europe again. And we're dining at the top table again.
I wonder. I did a show where I did a what if show, and one of the things I said was, what if Brendan had been given the funds to do a rebuild? Would we have stayed up? And I think we would have done.
Without question. Yeah, without question. I don't think it would have been a massive rebuild, would it? But no. I think, Maddison was earmarked to go anyway. And, a few of them were at that time. Castagna was, not particularly happy at the club, and few other things. And as you say, if Brendan had been allowed to strengthen us, particularly at the back, because I know he had a big fallout with Soyuncu, didn't he? And if it had been given the funds to strengthen us at the back, I don't think there's any doubt we would have stayed up.
Mm. Oh, I mean, we went down by 1 point.
We did. By a late Everton goal, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Although that was a season, I think, when Everton actually had points deducted, so maybe that gave it a bit of a different look. I want to ask you one last thing here, because we don't have a Jamie Vardy now.
No.
And do you think that he wielded, if I like, too much power, that he had top tier? Because I remember Mark Albrighton saying on the podcast that when I think it was Ranieri got sacked, I think, when he was driving down the M69 and everybody was having a go at him on the motorway, over it, and he didn't even know what had gone on. Because there's always rumours about unrest in the dressing room. And,
yes.
You looked at it, and we all presumed that it was Vardy that was leaving it. It wasn't necessarily. Was it a good thing or a bad thing? And if it was a thing,
what, to win the league?
No, for Vardy to have sort of the influence.
I think there are always strong characters in a dressing room, and Vardy was pushing all the right buttons. Certainly, in regards to the supporters. We loved him, we idolised him, we still do.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there were a lot of strong characters in that dressing room. When Wes was playing, Wes was a big character. There were some amazing characters. Albrighton, the greatest free transfer, I think, in history.
Indeed, definitely.
Possibly the runner-up would be Christian Fuchs. Free transfers. I mean, that's what you call business, isn't it?
It is.
We're talking about people that know about football, and they spot these players, and they know about their contractual situations, and it's the skill isn't there anymore to make those deals.
It was it was Nigel Pearson, Craig Shakespeare, Steve Walsh as a threesome.
What a team!
Exactly. And then I remember Steve Walsh going to Everton, and Everton going, bloody hell, we're lucky to get this guy. Look at who we got for Leicester. never got anybody decent at Everton. Apparently, they couldn't wait to get rid of him. But it was just three together that worked.
They bounced off each other.
Yes, yeah.
And it was just a great setup. And Walshy's crikey. Look at the play. He got Vardy for $1 million. He went over to France to look, I think, at a defender, and came back with Riyad Mahrez for 400 grand. It's astonishing. And Christian Fuchs for nothing, Albrighton for nothing. I mean, these are amazing deals, and all those players have got a Premier League winners medal.
Oh, they have. But again, going back to this is what I was meaning, Michael, not Michael in the chat. What I mean, Michael, is that those were the sort of players we were buying, and those were the sort of players that would run through brick walls for the manager. Once we won the Premier League, we were then buying Slamanis, and Mousas, like you say, and players that weren't as hungry, I don't think, as the likes of the Vardy's and the right we are. And I think that was the problem with winning the league, is that they changed that.
Well, that happens to those successful teams. Look at Chelsea.
A lot of it doesn't, but yeah, I just think
players that they've signed, they sign a player and he has 3 or 4 games, doesn't quite cut it, and they go out and buy somebody else for the same position. It's
and never get done by PSR somehow.
And never. Well, it's not a level playing field, is it, in regards to the PSR? But that's another subject.
Yes, 100%. Armchair Jockey says there, reputation is what we started to buy. 100%. And Michael, that's what I was saying. We'd gone from picking these gems out, but the fans would have demanded that we started buying those sort of players, because, like I say, having just got that trophy in the cabinet, when we'd gone out and bought Riyad Mahrez for £400,000, the fans would be going, "What the bloody hell are we doing? We should be buying this player and that player. We're Premier League champions." But we sailed close to the sun. But I just think all this bad feeling, like we said, it all comes back to just talk to us. Tell us what's going on.
We just said about the fans demanding things. We can't demand anything anymore.
No. And I say demanding, obviously, I mean, wanting.
No, exactly. I know exactly what you're saying, but we do. We want some honesty. We want some integrity. We want the people that run the club to talk to us and tell us what is going on and what they intend doing about it.
Yes, because at the end of the day, it's the fans that are the lifeblood of any club. You remember during COVID?
We've got amazing fans. The Leicester City fans are incredible, and they're incredibly forgiving. We're seeing that this season.
Yeah,
they are a forgiving bunch, and they're so loyal. I did wonder in the close season if all the season tickets would be sold. I was even sort of pondering. I think after 1 or 2 bad results, I'm reading myself, but no, it never happened, and it probably never will. But at the same time, we don't just crave success. We want to be part of what's going on that field of play, and we want to know how the club is being run, how it can be improved. Maybe like the Foxes Trust, we have to put ideas forward. That are generally ignored.
I want to say I had the Foxes Trust on here last year, and a lot of good ideas. But I'm thinking, are they just being given lip service? And I think they are. I think
But you mentioned lip service. Well, we're not being given enough lip service.
No, but what I mean is like, come in and talk to us and, write it all down, and then as soon as they go out the door, put it in the bin. I've got a mate who's a Burnley fan, and he's on the fans advisory board with Burnley, and they meet once a month, and do you know who goes into that meeting? The owner.
Yeah.
The owner goes in, and they're all sworn to secrecy, which I understand, but But he said, what I know about the club is unbelievable. He said, but we're trusted, and he'd never see that at Leicester.
No, not anymore. No.
I mean,
the money is gone.
Yeah. Michael says they bought some rubbish. Like I said, Ray said we started to have a world view and forgot our bread and butter. We did. Armchair said we can handle bad news. Look, we're Leicester. It's a roller coaster ride, isn't it? Up and
Always.
down. I say supporting Leicester's like the bride's knickers, up and down so much, and but we just want to be like all this COVID. I started to say this. All this COVID shit, where we miss the fans and we need the fans back, and it's not the same without the fans. As soon as we're back, couldn't give a damn about us.
Well, I didn't mind COVID actually, because the first came back, we won the FA Cup.
Indeed, but they said we need the fans, but then when we did get the fans back, they soon forgot us.
This is the problem, and that's the common denominator, Chris. Talk to us. Just we are fans, lifelong fans. We love the club. We want the club to be successful, but we want the club to be run properly and with integrity. And we want answers when things go belly up.
Yes. You'd never get, whether it's this channel or any of the other great Leicester City YouTube channels that are out there, and I don't know who it was, but it was a chairman from League Two actually went on a fan channel to talk to the fans. But they don't want to be asked awkward questions, which obviously they would be asked. But it's all we're asking. Look, if you're watching this, guys, and I don't know whether they do or not, just talk to us. Just tell us what's going on. As fans, we are shareholders of the club. In basic, that's what we are, and we have a right to know what's going on. We know there's going to be good times and bad times, and for every good time there's a bad time. We know that's going to happen, but it's like any bad news. If you're prepared for it, then it's not quite as bad, is it? Just talk to us, guys. That's all we're asking. And let us know why things are happening. And one last request: please get rid of John Rudkin and get Susan Whelan back. I can't see that happening, but
I can't see it happening. But it's very sad. The way it's happened is why it is so sad.
Yes.
It was wrong. It was a bad move.
When they say that, I didn't see that coming. I think that was definitely one of those moments.
Oh, I think we did.
Oh,
I think we figured there was going to be a scapegoat, and it has happened.
If you're going to have a scapegoat, make sure that it's the right goat.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some very dejected people at that football club at the moment who are hugely saddened by Susan's departure.
Yes, yeah, and it just doesn't affect. I mean, I've been at in jobs where one of my bosses has been sacked. Not, if they moved on to improve themselves, then yeah, you understand that. But for whatever reason, or not necessarily sacked, that's probably the wrong way. Where I once had a manager who, due to cutbacks, lost his position, and it affects everybody.
Indeed.
That's the thing. But look, we'll probably be back here in a year's time saying exactly the same things.
I hope not.
Well, I hope not as well, but this is Leicester.
Yeah. In a year's time, we're hoping for promotion from League One.
Always look on the bright side of life.
I did say that in jest, but you never know.
I know, indeed. I know what you're saying, but well, look. Thank you very much, Dave. Really do appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. But yeah, we do need some answers.
We do. What we need is somebody who's got what it takes.
You could say that. Don't look at me.
Oh dear. Gabe, really do it. We'll have to do this again.
Absolutely, Chris. Absolutely.
But thank you very much. Have a good rest of the night, and really appreciate you giving up your time, mate. You take care.
No
Look
problem.
at the family. And
Cheers, Chris.
Take care.
Keep up the good work. Cheers.
Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much. All the best.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks very much to Dave. Lovely of him to come on. Appreciating giving up the time to do that. When I know. All I'll say is remember then, armchair. Remember then. Interesting. I've made a few notes there. I'd heard that it was Susan and John not talking. There's a lot of things that I'm going to maybe sort of go into more. Armchair, I just want you to take me in your arms. That's all I'm going to say. And we can all... Let's stop this show before we get too silly. Thanks so much to Dave Bartram. For those of us that are of a certain age, remember him, and he's a good friend, and I really appreciate him ringing me up and saying, well, he rang me up to have a bit of a moan, and I said, let's have a moan and we'll get it off our chests, and I think we probably did. But hopefully, if it doesn't go too far, we need some good timing. And if we can get some good timing, who knows? That is the last one. Thanks so much, everybody. Look, like, share, especially, on the topic, share it, subscribe, really do appreciate it. And if you're listening via your favourite podcast platform, thank you for lending me your ears. Take care, everybody. Have a good night. We'll be back with something on Thursday. No idea what it is at the moment, but I look forward to seeing you then. Have a good night. Take care, everybody. Good night.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network.
TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.